Yeah, indeed. And Malcolm, you seem to be in the business of prognosticating bad things that then later happen. And you saw the Trump movement as a violent movement. You and I have talked about it and the sort of pretty open fascism of it. Just a couple of pieces of data for you, Malcolm. Morning Consult did a poll in June where 29% of Republicans say that they believe that Trump will be reinstated as president, a ludicrous assertion for anyone who had seventh grade civics. A Monmouth poll in June showed 63% of Republicans believe that Joe Biden only won during voter fraud. They believed a lot the same about Barack Obama. An American Enterprise Institute poll in January showed that 39% of Republicans said that they believe and they support violence. They support violence if political leaders fail to act, meaning they don't do what they want. And one more, 45% of Trump voters are unvaccinated and so are holding the rest of us hostage to the pandemic. Your thoughts?
4 years ago when Charlottesville happened, I recall saying on air that what we were looking at is the cotillion, the coming out party of all the disparate various factions of the conservative right and the youth movement that Steve Bannon created through the gamer community, all coming together and forming their own wing of what would be arguably a paramilitary support organization for the Trump team. That was the neo-Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, the Boogaloo Boys, the Proud Boys, the militias, all then at that time came together at Charlottesville and marched like the Nazis at Nuremberg, and that was purposeful, including their chant of Jews will not replace us with the crazy replacement theory that they live for. We thought that broke up after Charlottesville. We thought the opprobrium from the nation had put them down. And as I monitored them for those years, you could see that they had gone underground. But what was happening was they were congealing. And by the summer of 2020, with the George Floyd protests, they had come back together as a paramilitary of the Trump campaign, unofficially. And in 2020, after the 2020 election, they have appointed themselves an insurgency. And they carried out exactly what I predicted last November, the first insurrection of what I suspect will be many insurrections. We are dealing with an insurgency in the United States, and they are now organized under the banner of Trump.
My pinned tweet on Twitter says exactly that the Republican Party, Representative Swalwell, is harboring that insurgency. And it is a white nationalist insurgency. Let's just be blunt. It breaks down along the lines of this idea of replacement theory, which Malcolm just mentioned. So replacement theory, Malcolm just mentioned. Representative Swalwell, here's Tucker Carlson promoting replacement theory, which is a core white nationalist belief system, on his very popular Fox News show. Take a listen.
What's happening at the border is not a crisis. This is an intentional act. This is the administration bringing felons, violent criminals, into our country on purpose. Why would you do something like that? Only to destroy it. It's an act of hostility against the United States in order to change it forever. The only beneficiaries are the people who run the Democratic Party, and this is an effort to change the country. And we should be honest about it.
So that was not on his show. That was on the Comfy Couch show, on the Fox and Friends morning show, but still on that network. Do you have to work with people who pretty much have that on in their offices all day and think that is mainstream beliefs? You work with these people, Congressman. Do you feel comfortable and safe working with people who, at minimum, are willing to live with that kind of fascism and white nationalism in their party?
No, Joy, I don't. And we look at many of our colleagues and believe that had they not been in Congress on January 6th, they would have been on the other side of the door right next to Ashley Babbitt. And so I'm not working with them. I'm working to replace them from Congress. That's the replacement theory that I'm all in for, is to make sure they don't come back in 2023. But it's really, Joy, these twin lies that are killing us, literally killing us. The lie that the election was stolen has taken the lives of many police officers, and the lie that vaccines do not work, also propagated by Tucker Carlson, Kevin McCarthy, and those guys in the Republican Party. It's killing Americans, and it's starting to kill our kids. And so the two twin lies, to make sure that they are held accountable for that, I think that's the pathway to making sure that we keep the majorities in both the House and the Senate.
I mean, it's critical because we only have one. Listen, the Democratic Party has a lot of issues. OK, I get annoyed with y'all a lot. But at least the Democratic Party is a normal political party, right? The Republican Party, as Malcolm has said, is an insurgency and is housing an insurgency. So give me another prognostication. I'm going to take the risk of scaring is caring, Malcolm. So I'm going to allow you to do this. On August 13 or 14, just a few days from now, the QAnon believers, which is now a substantial portion of the Republican base, believe that Donald Trump will be reinstated as president through some magic that they only understand. When that doesn't happen, then what?
Well, nothing is going to happen here in August. There's a substantial portion of, the gunslinging conservatives base that really doesn't support QAnon, even though, and I've said this a year ago on this program, QAnon would take over the Republican ideology. And it has, even though they don't allow Q shirts at Trump rallies and things like that, the belief in the inherent evilness of all Democrats and that there's a global cabal that must be destroyed by force of arms, that is now standard throughout the conservative base. So let me prognosticate a little bit more. The Republican Party, I used to joke that they were vanilla ISIS, right? All of these militiamen and everything out there. They were like ISIS. They were like al-Qaeda in the sense that they radicalized online. They would meet together in secret, and they did all of these activities which were very much like a terrorist insurgency. Now I think they have shifted. The Republican Party is more like Sinn Féin, and the relationship between Sinn Féin, the Irish Nationalist Party, and the Irish Republican Army, Provisional Irish Republican Army terrorist group, and who called themselves freedom fighters and insurgents and had American congressmen sending them money to buy, heavy machine guns. These guys view themselves as this fanciful group of patriotic freedom fighters, the second coming of the Sons of Liberty. And there are many of them who are preparing for civil war right now. All the shame that we tried to give them after January 6th, that's gone. There are many of them right now that are ready to fight, and we're seeing politicians in the state houses and the Capitol who are actually, pushing them subliminally to fight.
Yeah.
And by the way, Joy, who would want to come to Washington in August? I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about their judgment.
Well, there you go. There you go. Very, very quickly, a little bit of news for our audience here. We did have some testimony today by a guy named B.J. Pack, a former U.S. attorney in Atlanta, who told congressional investigators on Wednesday that his abrupt resignation in January had been prompted by Justice Department officials warning that Trump intended to fire him. Why? For refusing to say that the election was fraudulent. So Donald Trump was actively attempting to overthrow the incoming government. So keep that in mind as you think about what we're dealing with on the other side of the aisle from Representative